A cargo ship drifted into port with meals still on the table, but no crew in sight. Another was found frozen in Arctic ice, its radio still transmitting faint signals. What happened to the people on board, and what shadows followed them? Join us as we explore the ghost ships that defy every explanation. Number 13. SS Moana Ship. For over 30 years, the SS Moana faithfully served passengers traveling between New Zealand and Australia, establishing itself as a reliable ocean liner. This vessel represented the golden age of passenger shipping when steam-powered ships connected distant lands across vast Pacific waters. In 1935, the aging liner was being towed to Japan for dismantling, a common fate for ships that had outlived their usefulness. However, the Pacific Ocean had other plans for this proud vessel. A massive cyclone intercepted the towing convoy, generating winds and waves that tested every chain and cable to its breaking point. The storm's intensity proved too much for the tow line connecting the Moana to its guide vessel. When the cable snapped, the liner found itself adrift with only a skeleton crew aboard, completely at the mercy of the cyclone's fury. The crew fought desperately to regain control, but the ship's age and the storm's power made their efforts futile. Eventually, they managed to ground the vessel off Fraser Island, where they waited for rescue. Although the crew survived, the SS Moana could not be salvaged from its sandy prison. Scavengers stripped the ship of valuable metals and equipment before abandoning it to the elements. The wreck became a landmark for Fraser Island visitors, its rusted remains telling the story of passenger shipping's bygone era and nature's ultimate authority over human endeavors. Number 12. MV Lyubov Ship. Soviet engineers designed the MV Lyubov in 1975 with ambitious goals, intending it to break through massive Arctic ice packs and navigate the world's most treacherous waters. This icebreaker represented cutting-edge technology and national pride, equipped with reinforced steel hulls and powerful engines. However, the vessel never achieved its intended purpose, becoming instead a symbol of failed expectations and bureaucratic mismanagement. Technical problems plagued the ship from its maiden voyage, with engine failures and structural weaknesses appearing far sooner than anticipated. By 2006, the MV Lyubov had run aground and faced seizure for unpaid debts, marking the beginning of its tragic decline. Canadian authorities impounded the vessel at a remote dock, where it sat abandoned for years without proper maintenance. The ship's condition deteriorated rapidly in harsh weather, with rust consuming its once proud hull and ice damaging its superstructure. Eventually, the MV Lyubov broke free from its moorings and began drifting aimlessly, earning its reputation as a ghost ship. Maritime authorities tracked its movements but lacked resources to capture or salvage the derelict vessel. The ship's story reflects the broader collapse of Soviet industrial ambitions and the human cost of unrealistic engineering goals. Number 11. Mary Celeste Ship. The Mary Celeste sailed into legend in 1872, becoming the most famous ghost ship story ever told. This vessel left New York, bound for Italy, but never made it to its destination. Instead, another ship found it drifting abandoned near the Azores, setting up maritime history's greatest unsolved puzzle. When rescuers boarded the empty vessel, they discovered something that still gives investigators nightmares. The ship was seaworthy, loaded with enough supplies to last 6 months, but the crew had vanished without leaving a single clue. The only missing item was a lifeboat, suggesting the crew abandoned ship voluntarily rather than going down fighting. But here's the kicker. There were no signs of struggle, no evidence of pirates, and no indication of what could have scared experienced sailors enough to abandon a perfectly good ship in the middle of the ocean. Investigators found the crew's personal belongings untouched, meals half-eaten, and the ship's cargo completely intact. It was like everyone had simply decided to take a group bathroom break and never came back. Over 150 years later, theories about what happened still fly around like confetti at a mystery convention. Some blame faulty navigation equipment that made the crew think they were sinking. Others suggest alcohol fumes from the cargo created an explosion risk that never actually happened.
The Mary Celeste became the blueprint for every ghost ship story that followed, proving that sometimes the ocean's biggest mysteries are the ones that leave no evidence behind.
I have a question for you. First, I would like to say that it is possible to follow the greatest curiosities of our world every day. But to do so, you need to be subscribed to our channel. So, are you already subscribed? If not, take the opportunity to subscribe now. Also, take the opportunity to like the video so YouTube will recommend more videos from our channel. So leave your like right now. And now that you have done that, let's go! Number 10. MV Captain Tarastanis. The Greek cargo ship MV Captain Tarastanis met disaster in 1974 while anchored near Crete. Despite secure positioning, a ferocious storm struck with unprecedented fury. The vessel's anchor chain snapped under nature's relentless assault, leaving it helpless against towering waves. Realizing imminent danger, the captain made a desperate decision to ground the ship deliberately, protecting his crew from certain death. This calculated risk saved lives, but doomed the vessel. By dawn, the MV Captain Tarastanis lay on its side, forever tilted against the rocky shore. Decades later, salvagers stripped everything valuable, leaving only a skeletal reminder of that terrible night. The ship became a silent monument to both human courage and nature's overwhelming power. Local fishermen still tell stories of the storm that claimed this mighty vessel, describing winds so fierce they could lift grown men off their feet. Maritime experts study this case as an example of how quickly conditions can deteriorate at sea. The MV Captain Tarastanis remains partially visible today, its rusted hull serving as a navigation hazard and historical landmark. Diving enthusiasts explore its remains, finding scattered cargo and personal belongings that tell the story of its final voyage.
Number 9. Bessie A. White Ship. The Bessie A. White was a real beauty in her day, a four-masted coal schooner that stretched over 200 feet and could haul 2,000 tons of black gold. At just 3 years old, this ship was barely breaking in her sea legs when disaster struck. February 6, 1922 turned into the worst day in the ship's short life. She ran aground half a mile west of Smith's Point, and water started flooding in like the ocean had personal beef with this vessel. The crew found themselves in a nightmare scenario. Their ship was dying beneath their feet, and help seemed impossibly far away. The conditions were so brutal that their distress signals couldn't penetrate the storm. 2 lifeboats launched into the churning waters, carrying the crew's only hope of survival. One boat made it to shore and raised the alarm, while the other faced the ocean's wrath. Rescue operations launched immediately, but reaching the stranded sailors proved nearly impossible in those conditions. Fortunately, help eventually arrived and pulled every crew member to safety. But the Bessie A. White couldn't be saved. She became part of the coastline's collection of wrecked dreams, her massive hull settling into the sand where it remains today. Decades later, pieces of this once proud schooner still wash up on beaches, reminding beachcombers of the day when coal was king and ships like the Bessie A. White ruled the waves.
Number 8. Northumberland Strait Ghost Ship. For nearly 2 centuries, folks living around Prince Edward Island have sworn they've seen something impossible sailing through Northumberland Strait. This isn't your typical ghost story. People actually watch this phantom ship cruise through the water like it owns the place. The legend goes that this vessel was once a magnificent ship before fire turned it into a floating nightmare. Flames consumed everything, sending the ship and its crew straight to the bottom. But here's where things get seriously weird. Witnesses describe seeing this ghostly ship appear out of nowhere, complete with what looks like crew members moving around on deck. The sightings got so frequent that rescue teams actually launched missions, thinking they were responding to real distress calls. But every time rescuers got close enough to help, the ship would simply vanish into thin air. Local fishermen have passed down these stories through generations, each adding their own spine-chilling details. Some describe seeing the ship engulfed in flames that don't seem to burn anything. Others report hearing voices calling out across the water only to find empty seas when they investigate. Scientists have tried explaining these sightings as optical illusions or atmospheric phenomena, but the locals aren't buying it.
Number 7, SS Orang Medan ship. The SS Orang Medan story reads like something from a horror movie, but it allegedly happened for real in the late 1940s. This Dutch freighter was sailing through the Strait of Malacca when it sent out the most terrifying distress call in maritime history. The radio message said, "All officers, including captain, dead, lying in chart room and on bridge, probably whole crew dead." Then came the final chilling words, "I die," before the radio went silent forever. When another ship finally reached the Orang Medan, the rescue team found something that would haunt their dreams forever. The entire crew was dead, frozen in expressions of pure terror with their faces twisted in fear. But here's the really weird part. There were no wounds, no signs of fighting, and no obvious cause of death. These sailors looked like they had literally been scared to death by something so terrifying it stopped their hearts. Some experts think toxic cargo fumes killed everyone instantly, while others suggest something even more sinister happened aboard that ship. The mystery deepened when the Orang Medan suddenly caught fire while being towed to port. The blaze consumed everything, and the ship exploded before sinking to the ocean floor, taking all evidence with it.
Number 6. Edward Bolen ship. Deep in Namibia's desert lies the Edward Bolen, a shipwreck that defies logic and geography. This vessel tells an extraordinary tale of environmental transformation spanning over a century. When the ship first ran aground, it was stranded on Namibia's fog-shrouded coastline, a dangerous area known for claiming numerous vessels. However, the desert gradually reclaimed the land, pushing the ocean farther away each year. The ship that once felt ocean waves now sits surrounded by endless sand dunes. The Edward Bolen's isolation in the desert creates a surreal landscape that attracts photographers and adventurers from around the world. Scientists study this phenomenon as evidence of how dramatically coastlines can shift over time. The vessel's wooden structure has partially survived the harsh desert conditions, though sand-blasting winds have eroded much of its original form. Local tribes consider the shipwreck a landmark, using it for navigation across the featureless desert terrain. The area around the Edward Bolen is now known as the Skeleton Coast, where numerous other ships met similar fates. Researchers have discovered that the ship's grounding coincided with particularly dense fog conditions that made navigation nearly impossible. The wreck stands as proof that Earth's geography is constantly changing, sometimes in ways that trap human artifacts in unexpected environments.
Number 5. Demetrios ship. The small Danish vessel Demetrios earned notoriety through its involvement in Mediterranean cigarette smuggling operations during the 1970s. Built in 1950, this modest ship proved perfect for illegal activities, easily slipping past coastal patrols under cover of darkness. Its crew specialized in transporting contraband between Turkey and Italy, making substantial profits from these dangerous runs. The ship's compact size allowed it to navigate shallow waters and hidden coves where larger patrol boats couldn't follow. However, law enforcement eventually caught up with the Demetrios during a routine inspection. Authorities seized the vessel, but its final fate remains disputed among maritime historians. Some believe the ship was deliberately burned to destroy evidence of its criminal activities, while others claim severe weather caused its abandonment. By 1981, the Demetrios had washed ashore at Maltake, where it remains visible today. The wreck attracts curiosity seekers interested in its criminal past and mysterious final voyage. Local authorities have left the ship untouched, considering it a historical artifact despite its illegal activities. Marine archaeologists have studied the ship's construction, noting modifications made to conceal contraband cargo.
Number 4. Wooden ship underground. Picture this. Workers digging the foundation for One World Trade Center after 9/11 suddenly hit something that definitely wasn't supposed to be there.
A complete wooden ship from 1773 buried like a time capsule under Manhattan's most famous construction site. This discovery blew everyone's minds because ships belong in water, not under skyscrapers. The vessel was crafted from old-growth Pennsylvania timber and had quite the journey before ending up as landfill. After being built, the ship got abandoned at a port that later became part of New York's massive land expansion project. Over centuries, the city literally built over it, burying this piece of maritime history under layers of development. The ship's preservation was incredible. The lack of oxygen underground kept the wood from completely rotting away. Archaeologists went crazy over this find because it connected New York's maritime past with its modern skyline in the most unexpected way possible. The discovery proved that the city's coastline had changed dramatically over time, with water areas becoming prime real estate. Construction workers became accidental time travelers, uncovering a vessel that sailed when America was still a collection of rebellious colonies. This wooden ship represents New York's transformation from a small port town to a towering metropolis, literally buried under progress but not forgotten by history. Number 4. Wooden ship underground. Picture this. Workers digging the foundation for One World Trade Center after 9/11 suddenly hit something that definitely wasn't supposed to be there. A complete wooden ship from 1773 buried like a time capsule under Manhattan's most famous construction site. This discovery blew everyone's minds because ships belong in water, not under skyscrapers. The vessel was crafted from old-growth Pennsylvania timber and had quite the journey before ending up as landfill. After being built, the ship got abandoned at a port that later became part of New York's massive land expansion project. Over centuries, the city literally built over it, burying this piece of maritime history under layers of development. The ship's preservation was incredible. The lack of oxygen underground kept the wood from completely rotting away. Archaeologists went crazy over this find because it connected New York's maritime past with its modern skyline in the most unexpected way possible. The discovery proved that the city's coastline had changed dramatically over time, with water areas becoming prime real estate. Construction workers became accidental time travelers, uncovering a vessel that sailed when America was still a collection of rebellious colonies. This wooden ship represents New York's transformation from a small port town to a towering metropolis, literally buried under progress but not forgotten by history.
Number 2. The Octavius ship. The Octavius attempted something absolutely insane in 1761, sailing home from China through the Northwest Passage, a route that basically didn't exist yet. This ship's crew had serious guts, but the Arctic had other plans. The vessel vanished for 14 years before showing up again in 1775, drifting near Greenland like a frozen time capsule. When a whaling ship found it, the scene inside was straight out of a horror movie. The entire crew was frozen solid at their posts, including the captain, who died with his pen still in hand, frozen mid-sentence in the ship's log. The Octavius had become a floating tomb, preserved by Arctic conditions that turned the crew into ice sculptures. How this ship traveled from China to Greenland without anyone spotting it for over a decade remains a complete mystery. Some experts think the vessel got trapped in ice and drifted across the Arctic like a ghost ship, following currents that took it on an impossible journey. The crew's preserved state allowed investigators to piece together their final moments, revealing a desperate attempt to survive in conditions that would kill modern explorers with all their advanced equipment. The ship's story inspired countless maritime legends and proved that the Arctic Ocean doesn't give second chances. Even today, the Northwest Passage remains one of the most dangerous shipping routes in the world.
Number 1. North Korean ghost ships. Every year, something really dark happens off Japan's coast. North Korean fishing boats keep washing up on Japanese shores. But these aren't your typical fishing trips gone wrong. These vessels carry a cargo that'll give you nightmares. Dead crews who froze to death or starved while trying to catch fish in impossible conditions. The boats themselves tell a brutal story about life in one of the world's most isolated countries. These fishermen head out during winter months in vessels that belong in museums, not on the open ocean. Their boats lack GPS, proper engines, or modern safety equipment. They're basically floating death traps powered by desperation and government pressure to bring home food. When storms hit or engines fail, these crews have zero chance of survival. The winter winds then push these floating coffins toward Japan, where authorities deal with the grim discovery of another failed fishing expedition. Japanese Coast Guard officials have become experts at handling these tragic arrivals. Each boat tells the same heartbreaking story: crews who died trying to feed their families and country.
The recurring nature of these ghost ships highlights the ongoing tragedy happening in North Korean waters. Maritime experts study these incidents to understand the desperation driving people to sea in such dangerous conditions. The boats serve as floating monuments to a system that values fish catches over human lives.
Still curious? Then don't stop now. The next mystery is already waiting for you. Just click the video on screen. I saved it just for you. See you there, curious one.